Take a moment and gaze out at the horizon. Picture the vast, unbroken expanse of an ocean. Now, imagine yourself standing on a shoreline tens of thousands of years in the past. You are one of our earliest ancestors, a Homo sapiens, driven by a primal human instinct, the desire to know what lies beyond that horizon. You feel the pull of new lands, new resources, a new future. But there's a problem, a seemingly insurmountable one: the water. You have no boat, no ship, no sail. The very idea of constructing such a vessel is a distant dream, millennia away. So how did we, a species born on the plains of Africa, become world travelers? How did we conquer the planet's great water barriers, long before we ever truly mastered the art of building a boat? This is the story of how we crossed oceans without ever needing to. It begins not with a vessel, but with the world itself. The Earth we inhabit today is a mere snapshot in geological time. During the Pleistocene epoch, our planet was a dramatically different place. Vast quantities of water were locked up in immense continental ice sheets, causing global sea levels to plummet. We're not talking about a few feet. In some periods, the sea was as much as 400 feet lower than it is today. This wasn't just a coastal change. It was a redrawing of the world map. Imagine entire landscapes, now drowned beneath the waves, being high and dry. The British Isles were not islands at all, but a frozen peninsula of northern Europe. A great land bridge, Beringia, connected what is now Siberia to Alaska, forming a vast, habitable subcontinent, a gateway to the Americas. And in Southeast Asia, the falling seas exposed a massive landmass called sunken, which joined together the modern-day islands of Sumatra, Java, and Borneo with the Malay Peninsula. For our ancestors, these weren't barriers, they were highways. They were invitations to walk into new worlds. We can trace their footsteps through the stone tools they left behind, a trail of breadcrumbs scattered across continents. These weren't epic voyages in the way we think of them now, with a clear destination in mind. This was a slow, generational creep, a gradual expansion into new hunting grounds. A family might move a few miles in their lifetime, their children a few miles more. Over thousands of years, these small steps accumulated into giant leaps of migration. They weren't consciously crossing oceans, they were simply walking on land that no longer exists. But even with these lower sea levels, there were still significant water gaps. The most formidable of these was the stretch of ocean separating Sundaland from another Ice Age continent, Sahul, which comprised modern-day Australia, New Guinea, and Tasmania. No matter how low the seas dropped, there was always a deep water channel. The Wallace Line, a biological and geographical chasm that landbound animals could not cross. And yet, we know our ancestors did. Archaeological evidence from Australia dates human presence back at least 65,000 years. So how did they make that final, momentous leap? This is where our story takes a turn, from the certainty of land to the chaos of the sea. The answer, it seems, lies in nature's own transport systems. Picture a torrential storm, a cyclone tearing at a coastline. It rips up entire sections of riverbank, thick with vegetation, fallen trees, and soil, and sends this tangled mass out to sea. You now have a natural raft, an impromptu, floating island. These are not a rare phenomenon. We see them today. And on these rafts, life gets a free ride. Small lizards, insects, and occasionally, larger animals can be swept away, eventually making landfall on a distant shore. It's how many species colonized isolated islands. Is it so unbelievable that our resourceful ancestors might have been among them? Perhaps it was accidental at first. A small group, foraging along a river estuary, caught off guard by a flash flood and swept out to sea on a mobile chunk of their own environment, or maybe it was more intentional. They might have observed these natural rafts, seen their potential, and used them for short, exploratory hops between islands that were now, thanks to the lower sea levels, tantalizingly visible from one another. They wouldn't have needed to be master shipwrights, they would have just needed to be observant, adaptable, and brave. A log, a bundle of reeds, anything that floats could become a vessel for a short, desperate, or hopeful journey. We have tantalizing clues that point to this kind of opportunistic travel. In the Mediterranean, on the island of Crete, which has been an island for 5 million years, stone tools have been found that are an astonishing 130,000 years old. These weren't made by modern humans, but by our even earlier relatives, Neanderthals or perhaps Homo heidelbergensis. The idea of these early hominins constructing seaworthy boats is highly unlikely, but the possibility of them using a natural raft to cross the relatively short distance from North Africa or the Greek mainland is a compelling one. It paints a picture of our ancestors not as conquerors of the sea, but as clever opportunists, using the natural world to their advantage in ways we are only just beginning to appreciate. And then there's the power of catastrophe. Imagine a tsunami, a colossal wave triggered by an undersea earthquake, scouring a coastline and washing everything and everyone out to sea. It's a terrifying thought, but some scientists have proposed this as a mechanism for accidental colonization. A group of people, clinging to debris in the aftermath of such an event, could be transported across a significant body of water. It would have been a traumatic, disorienting experience, a one-way trip with no guarantee of survival. But if a few individuals, a breeding pair, were lucky enough to be washed ashore on a new landmass, they could have become the founding population of a new world. The settlement of the Americas also has its own deep mysteries. While the Beringia land bridge was the main route, there is growing evidence of a coastal migration, with people hopping down the Pacific coast. Perhaps they used simple watercraft, little more than rafts, to navigate around the massive ice sheets that blocked the interior. This wasn't a journey across a vast, empty ocean, but a series of short, coastal voyages, always keeping the land in sight. It was a different kind of sea travel, one that didn't require a deep understanding of navigation, just the courage to push off from one point of land and aim for the next. What's truly remarkable about this story is the sheer resilience and adaptability of our ancestors. They weren't demigods with a grand plan for global domination. They were people, just like us, but armed with a profound understanding of their natural environment. They knew the rhythms of the tides, the direction of the currents, the properties of different types of wood. They could read the landscape and the seascape in ways we have long since forgotten. Their journeys weren't about technology. They were about knowledge, observation, and a willingness to take incredible risks for the chance of a better life. So, when we look at a world map and see the vast oceans that separate the continents, we shouldn't see them as barriers that were only conquered by the great explorers of recent history. We should see them as they were to our distant ancestors, a complex, ever-changing landscape of opportunity. A world where land could rise from the sea, where nature itself could provide a means of passage, and where the human spirit of discovery was powerful enough to carry us to the ends of the earth, long before we ever learned to build a boat. The next time you stand by the ocean, listen closely. You might just hear the echoes of their incredible journey, a testament to the fact that for humanity, the impossible has always been just a matter of time and perspective.